Anthony Griffin being sacked, effective immediately from today. You could see there the CEO, Ryan Webb, looked a little bit nervous and uncomfortable with that interview with James Hooper. How did we see all this play out today? What's our thoughts on it?
Well, the way the players were treated to start with was disgraceful. How you can make a decision that the club is sacking the coach and then you put the players up for media, that's just diabolical management. You know, I understand that the clubs have a commitment through NRL guidelines that they have to put players up, but you walk out today and you say, fellas, we've already filled your pages. The boys aren't talking. And on the Ben Hunt front, well, Ryan Webb says there Ben's a competitor and he wants to win. Well, that makes you nervous, doesn't it? Yeah. That would make Dragons fans extremely nervous.
Just back to the players. They put the players up without the players having any idea that the coach had been sacked. Was that a smother? Was that just so they didn't have to answer the questions that they put the players up? Do you think that's a bit irresponsible to... I mean, the players are going through enough at the moment.
Yeah, so originally, guys, there was a board meeting scheduled for this evening, and it's a routine monthly board meeting at the Dragons. However, management decided that they wanted to pull the pin on Anthony Griffin earlier than that because of the players were training today, and today's was a scheduled training day. They wanted basically to start afresh today and therefore pulled Hook in this morning at a separate meeting. Why those players were still put forward to the press is just beyond me. And it speaks to the mismanagement of this entire scenario. Here we have a situation where in what club, in what major sporting organisation is success achieved when it is built around telling the coach that you may not be there back in February, before the ball has even been kicked? Footy clubs are built on solidarity and a platform of clarity and a commitment going forward. This club hasn't had it from day one of this season. There's
an old saying, right? Winning starts in the front office. They haven't won in the front office. I do feel sorry for the players, but you have to win, right? So they have to be accountable for not winning games of footy. But at the beginning of the year, I go back to Ben Hunt and saying, can you please support us? And then they're changing their name. They put the coach on notice then. And they got no one to replace him. The thing what I think is, if I'm going to get rid of a coach, an NRL coach, you've got to have someone waiting in the wings to come in,
Absolutely.
Don't you? So what if Jason Rolls says no? What if the next three candidates that they want say no?
See, I don't think that's going to be their problem, though, because, Gordy...
But what if they do say no? But who's going to go there?
Well, there's only 17 NRL head coaching jobs, and I'll tell you what, it's not going to sit vacant. Jason Rolls wants the job. You can tell he wants the job because he's angling for the job. There's no question in the world.
Crawls, it's embarrassing that they started this process back in February and they still haven't appointed a head coach to replace Anthony Griffin, knowing full well they were never going to go around with him next year.
Griffin was on death row from the first kickoff. He was
September.
gone. He was the walking dead.
Yeah.
But
from September...
The concern here is, and you're right, Gordy, pretty much now Jason Rolls can say how many years and how much, and he's a rookie coach. But he's in the box position now. He's one out, one back, because really he knows that they want him, and they're going to have to overcommit and overpay a rookie coach.
I reckon that's
what's going to happen.
They got the stench of the Warriors from years ago when it was a coach's graveyard, right? So Hook got sacked. Did Paul McGregor, one of their legends, get sacked? Was Steve Price? Huh? That's 3 in a row. So why would you want to go... Seriously, why would you want to go coach there? If you're a young guy and they don't give you 5 years to go and fix the roster, get all those young kids... So St George need to get out of, we won 11 in a row, right? And I played at that club and it's famous and it's powerful. And Illawarra, they keep on saying they got all the young juniors. I think they've won under 10, out of Harold Matthews, SG Ball or Flegg finals. So there's a problem in their development. There's a problem with their talent coming through the club. And the Dragons keep on hanging on what they did, like 11 in a row. That's gone.
No rookie coach would get 5 years. Do you guys see that happening?
Well, you know what I think, though, at the moment? Everyone pretty much has Jason Rolls in the job. And it sounds that the Dragons see it that way too, and they want to clear the decks and bring him in. But if they've left it this late, because I'll maintain we all knew Anthony Griffin was going into this season on death row. They should have made the call in the summer. You don't make it 11 rounds into the season. But now that they've left it this late, surely you go through the process and you interview Rolls, but you also interview Dean Young and Ben Hornby and whoever else, and give it to the best credentialed coach.
So is a rookie... good point. does a rookie coach turn that organisation around?
I'll go back to the point. I
does a rookie coach?
But I had a conversation today with Paul McGregor, who of course was let go before Anthony Griffin came into the job. And one of the things Mary spoke about, he does believe a rookie coach can do the job, providing the club allows him to surround himself with senior people. And when Mary was at the Dragons, he made what was it, the second week of the finals in 2018, and 15 months later, he wasn't even allowed to pick his own team. He had no authority of the recruitment and retention. He truly didn't. There was a panel of people, and if he got outvoted, he couldn't tell you who's going to run out in the one jersey. So what he's saying is if you're going to bring someone in, you pick and stick, let them see out their contract, but also let them surround themselves with people they trust.
There's a couple of key factors in why this has sped up as far as Jason Ryles being in this box seat. And to Crawl's point, so there'll be several parameters around why Jason will take this role, and it is very much specifically what Crawls is talking about. It's about having support both at a recruitment and a GM of football level. Names like Nathan Brown have been connected back around as a recruitment tool supporting Jason. Shane Richardson, former South Sydney GM of footy, has been heavily connected and held conversations with the club. These are the building blocks that can help turn St George-Illawarra around and help Jason Ryles' first introduction to an NRL coach. Now, the second part of that is the Sydney Roosters have actually ticked off approval for Jason to start these negotiations.
Okay, so they've officially said, Jason, you can move on if you like.
Yep, with a caveat, there still may be compensation required to be paid for the remainder of what Jason's contract stands at the Roosters whenever he should get to Saints. And that would be paid by the Dragons.
So why the sudden change there from the Roosters?
Well, they understand, Brave. To Crawl's point, there's only 17 head coaching jobs in the game. Now, Jason has a couple of options. He can pursue this. He can hang tight at the Roosters, or hang tight at the Roosters and potentially continue to wait for that Melbourne Storm job.
You've got to let your assistant coaches go. If you want the best assistant coach, they're close to being first grade coaches, right? Aren't they? So when they come into your system, if they're good enough, you want them to be pushing the head coach, challenging the head coach, which means that they're ready for a first grade job.
Whatever coach comes in, Gordy, he's just got to own that team, right? It's got to be his team.
It's got to be his team because look
the
what
board have
happened
got to take a bit of a step back.
Yep.
Is that how you see it?
Absolutely, because that's the DNA. So it's got to be his team. It's got to be his way or the highway, and with the players as well. And then the players need to be accountable too. They didn't turn up at the barbecue gate, then they didn't turn up to their presentation, and a couple of games this year, like they haven't turned up. When a teammate's playing 300 games, you think you put a better effort in. And then I'm not talking about ability, I'm talking about the effort.
Yep.
Where did Anthony Griffin get it wrong? Why didn't he succeed as a coach at the St George-Illawarra Dragons?
Talent.
What, the players?
They don't have enough talent. It was so Ben Hunt reliable. Like that team was all based around Ben Hunt. Do you think they got talent to be in the top eight?
I think when we look back on Anthony Griffin's career, he survived a long time, but this is the third time he's been sacked by a club. Like he got moved on by the Broncos. He got moved on by the Panthers.
They're all coming fourth at the Panthers.
Yes, that's true, but he's been moved on. So if we go to what the problem is, it seems to be that it was his communication skills and with the players. And you've heard enough stories come out of the club. I know I spoke to two of the players that Anthony had brought to the club at the end of last year when they left, and they weren't complimentary.
No, he coached me at Origin. It's close to Wayne Bennett, the communication. Some people talk about Wayne, it's as clear as mud, because sometimes there's no communication. It's up to you. What do you want? You want someone that talks and gives you too much and is an overthinker, or someone that's simple about you coming and doing an effort? I think he's an effort coach. I think it's about you, what you bring, and I just don't think they had
worked with the Dragons,
Gordy,
it just hasn't.
No, so that means
his record's not as good as Mary's. Nowhere near as good as Mary's.
But is the modern player equipped to deal with that communication? Does he need to adjust his coaching
The answer's no, Braith. The absolute answer's no. He's an old-school coach who hasn't adjusted to the next generation player.
But hold on, man. Does Wayne Bennett? No. I'm telling you, Wayne Bennett doesn't do it.
Players crave feedback, wouldn't provide it.
Hey, so how's it different?
Well, you can see the relationship that Wayne
comes
has
down to
with
talent,
his players
it comes down to having
that
a couple
we don't seem to see
the
coming out of the
Bromwich
Dragons
boys.
at the
No,
moment.
it's
the truth.
It's the guys he's got out of Melbourne that that are leaders, that drive the standards. There's no one
But you
really
know what,
there at
though?
the Dragons
So
other than Ben
So
Hunt.
we point to another area there, is their recruitment.
Yes.
And look, when Anthony arrived, he had an idea that he was going to play the money ball strategy. And he knew he had a lot of younger players, very talented players, coming through the system. And his idea was, if I can surround them with experienced forwards and a really tough pack, it's our best chance to let these guys develop through to where we need them to get.
Do you think it's a tough pack?
It didn't work. That's what I'm saying. His strategy on the surface looked like a good idea. Didn't work out that way. Ultimately, the head coach is responsible for that.
Gordy, it wasn't a bad roster. The likes of Tarek Sims, Jack Bird, Andrew McCulley, Ben Hunt, as you're saying, Zach Lomax, it wasn't a bad squad.
Tell me how many of those are playing to the best of their potential.
That's the problem. That's the problem with the Dragons.
But listen, but the coaches, look, the players, you got to pack that, and I've been big on that. Like the coach, I've never seen a player ever walk off with a game plan and go, God, that was amazing. It's about your effort, it's about your teammates, and that's what we all get waxed lyrical about, is when blokes put in the effort. It's not about their skill level, it's the effort that they put in, and they're the players in Origin. That's what we're going to talk about, right? We're not going to talk about their skill level. How many of the Dragons have put in those efforts?
Just on that point, and we'll go back again, when the previous coach was there, they had 5 Origin players. Now they have 1.
Yep.
So whose fault's that? The system is not educating these players to play to their full potential.
Well, the next job now for the Dragons, now that Anthony Griffin is moving on, is they've got to try and keep their key playmaker Ben Hunt, which we understand, well, he's contracted. But back in round 7, Ben Hunt was asked if he'd consider his future if Griffin was let go. His answer would be making Dragons bosses a little nervous right now.
Yeah, he's been here for a couple of years now. We're building in a direction I believe is the right direction, and I think if you take away your coach, you bring a new coach in, then it's just going to start that whole cycle again. And to be honest, I probably don't have the time to start it all again. I'm getting to the back end now, and I'm not really keen on starting fresh.
Reconsidering your future, is that something, if they were to part ways with Anthony, that you'd have to at least reassess, not necessarily leave the club?
Oh, look, you definitely have a think about it.
Yeah, not very convincing there from Ben Hunt. We know the close relationship that he had with the coach, Anthony Griffin, and has done for a very long time. Griffin coached him in under-20s, Holden Cup, all the way through. So this is a contentious one. Ben Hunt, obviously, I'm not sure he wants to stay there. In my eyes, there are a lot of clubs that would be circling. There's one that stands out to me, and that's the Bulldogs. There are murmurs that the Bulldogs are chasing. I know that Gus has interest in Hunt. I know that Ben Hunt would be the perfect fit for the Bulldogs right now. Kick out to come back in. You got Marnie, Burton, Crichton coming next season. He would be the perfect solution to the Bulldogs. Now, is there any chance that we can see him getting a little restless and asking for an out?
Well, this is what Dragons fans deserve to be absolutely filthy today, because Dragons management have created this situation where not only have they been unable, and are still unable because they still don't have a head coach for next year, to recruit star power, to recruit from outside, to recruit from rival clubs, because they can't sell a story. They can't. They can't tell Gordy, you're a player, can't go to the Dragons because you don't know who the head coach is.